Good evening, everybody. There we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Give everybody just a second to hop on here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Excuse me. All right. Let's see here. I'll give everybody about 2 minutes, and we'll be on. All right, everybody. Sorry about that. I do not have my camera up tonight because I feel like hot dog water, so I'm just gonna leave that off. I'm gonna try and keep tonight's session relatively short, so I can get some rest for tomorrow. I'm not sure if I caught something in between now and 2 hours ago, but my head's hurting. All right, so looks like we got about 10 people in here. Appreciate you guys leaving likes. We'll get to the news right off the bat. We'll chart the ETFs. Along with the charts, would you? Yeah, I could do that really quick. So with the premium, obviously you're going to be able to talk with us one-on-one. So if you guys have like a specific, like, a couple things that you need to work on, you're not sure where to go from there, we can give you our perspective on that. Not only that, one-on-ones, but we kind of we do offer signals, but also our reasoning and education behind it. We also live stream, like you see on YouTube, pretty much every day. We also cater to a lot of different traders, pennies, as well as options, equity, even some of us trade crypto and futures. So not only that, I just had stacks the extras on there. They're pretty much all the education that we have is included, and if you have questions on those, we have so many people in the chat who started off as members and are now admin, that are able to kind of help with that information as well. So okay, just as a brief explanation. So let's see here. Right off the bat. Oof. So usually, yeah. So for the most part, for me, like for a signal, like Lulu example, I said, all right, I'm planning on taking Lulu. At this point, obviously, I have my screen being shared. So like, say, I was looking at cat here, and I said, all right, anywhere above this 9 or 110.50, I'll be taking 215 calls on cat. And I'll let people know when I get in and where I'm planning on actually exiting that position. And then as well, we have Rolly, top shelf brokers. I'm not the only admin in there. There's a lot of other guys in there, but he's a phenomenal swing trader. It's pretty much his forte. So people looking for long-term swings, he called PayPal at the 220s to take 300 calls out till the end of this year. and that was at the beginning of the year. So he's definitely on his game as far as swing trading and stuff like that is concerned. So hold on one second. Yeah, so if you trade stocks, like say I'm taking a call option, let's say I'm taking something for a swing, right? If you're somebody who can buy a certain amount of equity, in the sense where like you're able to scalp equity, then yeah, for sure. If you're looking at like Microsoft, if you go look at I'm watching FUV. If you look at my trading view, back down, I think last month I called Microsoft at the bottom at 253, and it's now at 280 plus. So I think so. Yeah, I mean, if you're kind of just looking for something slow paced, or what is a good like fundamentals, like we dig into that kind of stuff, on request, I guess. So all right, anyway, let me go ahead and get to the news, and we'll go ahead and get to it. So as I go through this, we're going to obviously, we're going to be going over earnings. We have a big earnings month that's coming up. We're going to take a look at the major ETFs, obviously my watch list, and then we'll take a look at your guys' charts. So, so let's see here. Where do I even start? So earnings season, we'll just start with that. Right now, starting this week, we have Netflix, Johnson & Johnson, Twitter, and Snap as some of the highlights of next week's earnings. One thing I like the earnings calendar here on StockTwits, if it'll load. Here, 1 second. Okay, so take a look here at the earnings calendar. All right, this thing's moving in slow motion. Sorry, y'all. Alright, well my internet's working fine. There we go. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so Monday doesn't seem like we have anything. Tractor Supply is actually a decent company to trade here and there. Steel Dynamics, not really familiar. I have heard of it, never traded it. IBM, naturally, but the real Netflix, of course, on Tuesday the 20th, Chipotle, United Airlines, HAL, ISRG, Intuitive Surgical, who is actually an interesting company to trade if you can catch them with cheaper options. Wednesday we have Verizon, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, Las Vegas Sands, let's see here, CSX, I thought they said ASMR for a second. I was like, oh shit. Snap, Domino's, Twitter, INTC, American Airlines, Love, Cleveland Cliffs, FCX, BIBG, ABT. We have some pretty big companies here. New core company has earnings this Thursday as well. And then Friday, relatively quiet as far as big names are concerned. We do have a lot of small tech companies, energy companies, and banks. But other than that, that's kind of what we're looking for going into this week. Now, next week, I think it's important before we even go forward to look into what next week looks like, because that could spur movement in these stocks this week. And a couple of those to take note of course, Tesla on Monday the 26th is reporting earnings after the bell. Tuesday we have Visa, AMD, BXP, Boston Properties, Apple. So Microsoft, Google, General Electric, Google, I'm just kidding, QuantumScape, Interface, TDoc. I mean, we have some 3M, UPS, Waste Management. I mean, we have a ridiculous amount of earnings coming here. Just pick one. Snow, Facebook, Boeing, Ford, Tilray. I know I'm going on and on. Shop. You guys get the point. Literally everybody and their mother is reporting earnings. Overstock. Wow. Yeah. So quite a bit happening in the next 2 weeks. Now, let's go really quickly. Hold on 1 second. All right. Sorry, I just had to check something. Okay, so with that being said, I think that's important when we go take a look at the cues really quickly. SPY, sorry, and let's see here. So SPY, cues, IWM, and the Dow. So as of last week, we were down 1% on the S&P, down 2.15% on the NASDAQ, Russell down 5.11%, and the Dow, I think, holding up a percentage at 43%, 0.43%. So starting off here, we're going to go ahead and start on the daily here on SPY, excuse me, the 4-hour time frame, and get an idea of where we are at. So we have this very obvious rounded top. I think looking at this chart right now, very sporadic movement, and actually the cues, I think, are going to also speak to this setup as well. It might end up extending itself, but right now this was the channel that it was holding, broke back into the day with what looks to be like a little bit of a bear flag. But more than likely, I think that SPY will end up bouncing in some regards, or at least trading in range. So my first target, and obviously this is one of the main supports that we broke, is 432.77. Now what could happen here, and I know it's ridiculous for some people who have never even heard of it, but that inverse cup and handle. So we could end up getting a bounce up here, and then a little bit of consolidation, and then a pullback, and that earnings could be what spurs that. So interesting setup here right now, and that actually leads me to the cues. So the cues, and hold on one second before I move on too fast. So SPY actually looks like it wants to kind of make that same setup. Here we go. Okay. Oops. Okay, so it kind of, I see a channel here for sure. I just had to fix that on SPY. But looking at the cues, similar setup here. This one, you can see end of the day or after hours the same way that SPY did. I think that we get a bounce. And we could end up trending all the way back up to our main, or our resistance right around here, and I think that target would be 359.50. That range there. It's not a perfect line. It's a zone. So in between 359 and 360, more than likely, is where we'll see the cues attempt to break range. Now, of course, same setup, kind of that rounded top. So even if we did end up breaking up there, same setup as SPY, where you could end up having that inverse cup and handle. So, which is a reversal pattern, if anybody isn't aware. Okay, so on the Russell, big legs to the downside. I don't know if this one's going to end up catching a break. It has just been slammed, and you can see here finishing the day at one of those main resistance. We have some sub resistances underneath it, but 215 is where IWM has to bounce. You can see here, same thing as SPY, ending relatively flat, but under that support level right around here. So just sitting right there, in dire need of a bounce. Didn't really show any strength in after hours or any type of gapping up. So if it does end up trending to the downside, of course, watch those penny stocks, small cap stocks, meme stocks, all that good stuff. But right now, it does appear that we would likely trend down to the 213 or 214 flat, and then even possibly the 212 and 213 levels. And of course, we'll evaluate that. I'm going to set some alerts as I go, just to make sure that I'm aware of the movement on IWM. Same thing to the upside, 217 would be obviously somewhere where I would need to be alerted on that break. Oof, my head is hurting. And then of course, the Dow. Okay, so this was the main target line that I talked about, and I think I've said this before in some of my videos and on live before, but anytime that you see this flat consolidation, yes, it shows strength, but evaluate and take a look at the volume or even look at the strength, and there's very little here, nothing showing on the TTM. It's literally sitting flat, and so more than likely any type of catalyst or any type of negative movement within the market, the Dow or whatever stock will follow, and that's what you see here: consolidation on top, trying to hold that I think it's the 34.8 level on the Dow, trying to make it up to that, and in between the 35K and that 34.8 K level, ending up breaking. So more than likely, you guys see this small gap here. That gap here starts at 345.70 on the Dow, and this is a small gap, but still a gap nonetheless. And this gap will get filled, looks like at 344.28, and that is slightly below. So don't be surprised if we fill that gap on the Dow this week, and that is being held up by that 50-day EMA. So below that 50-day EMA, and we will likely see industrial stocks take a hit as well. This does not look like good movement within the stock market at the moment, or at least in the industrial sector. So, okay, real quick. So a few things to go over. After weeks and weeks of back and forth talks, OPEC and friends have struck a deal to push more oil into the global economy. The decision comes as concerns of a new COVID variant ramp up. These COVID concerns have led oil, and despite the artificially lower despite the artificially low supply. If COVID concerns mean more rampant oil could stand to drop further given the increased supply. On the other hand, investors might just turn a blind eye now that there is OPEC drama has been concluded. The deal will allow for monthly supply hikes of 400,000 barrels a day. The raised output will take effect next month, allowing OPEC members such as Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE to produce and export more oil. These hikes will get OPEC Plus closer to their pre-pandemic production levels. They hope to return to the end of their production cuts by September 2022. Crude oil traded at 71.81 on Friday, down just 2% in the past week. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. All right. During the pandemic, you guys remember, during the whole pandemic, NVIDIA has gotten a lot more expensive. At the low of the pandemic, the stock traded for as little as $240. And going over, we're going to talk about NVIDIA because its split is coming soon. And it's a part of the news, so I wanted to bring that up. This week, it will be heading back to that price, and it's not going to lose any value or cost you any money, of course, because it's the split. The stock will currently be, which is trading at 726, will cost as little as a little under 200 after the open on Tuesday. Stock splits are notorious for causing volatility. NVIDIA stock price has risen more than 21% since the split was announced in May. And let's see here, the volatility could continue to affect big moves in NVIDIA's price in the time leading up to and following the split. It is untold whether NVIDIA will fall lower post-split. However, for some perspective, the chipmaker is up more than 72% year over year. Over the last 5 days, NVIDIA has fallen 10%. The stock fell in sympathy with other semiconductor players. So looking at NVIDIA and the time that we have allotted, now the split doesn't go into effect, as far as I'm aware, until I think it was like the beginning of August, sometime in August, like the actual shares will split, but anybody who owns the shares will obviously, and the thing is that we can, unless the market, causes untold volatility. Yes, it's up really, really high. It's gotten really good price upgrades. And I think that a lot of people were betting on it to just rip continuously. And it really surprised me, because as I watched this pattern get built, I didn't really expect for NVIDIA to end up reversing. I figured it was going to be one of those things where I took a bias on something and it ended up blowing up in my face, because I know better, right? I don't play stocks that have a catalyst, especially if that's a catalyst that could lead to the upside. And I was wrong, even though I had the analysis right, and I was saying, okay, well, it looks like it's going to fall. And then as it started falling, I was like, well, now it really does look like it's going to fall. It gapped down, and I was like, okay, well, one of two things are going to happen. It's going to fill its gap, reject, and then fall, or it's going to fill its gap and rip. And obviously, the story is right here on the chart. And as it's nearing its 4-hour or higher time frame 208 EMA, which is also right around some of the first levels that NVIDIA broke to the upside after this switch was announced. Now, that being said, if we break this 718, or what will I think be, I'm not sure what the stock's going to be trading at off the top of my head, if anybody wants to do that math, but it'll likely break this moving average here, and we'll see NVIDIA trade down. What may have happened is what's similar to what happened with Tesla and other stocks that have split, where you see the split happen and it dumps, but instead of waiting until the split, I think everybody ended up starting to dump it sooner than we expected. And you can see that here on Tesla. So NVIDIA is of interest for me this week. I do think that there's the potential that even tomorrow, or the day before the split, so anybody buys then will be included, we could see a whole lot of volatility and price action, because I think that now that it's gone lower, the people may want to get in so that they can just have that long-term position there. So let's see here. Sorry if I don't have your guys' comments up at the moment. NVIDIA stock split thoughts. Oh, pocket change. That's so funny. I just was like kind of going over. Oh, and NVIDIA, Tony, that's right. You were talking about Wave 5. I'm looking at I'm looking at it from a support and resistance, or just you could even say, rather than a dynamic or just a linear support, or if I lined up fibs, it would line up there as well. But just based off of where it's at on the chart, I think that NVIDIA does get some sort of bounce this week, and I think that some of the first levels that we're going to see broken, and honestly, I think like and you can see this here, 736.95, that's a big level. More than likely, if NVIDIA really starts ripping, 750, even 765 could be a potential target for NVIDIA next week. So definitely of interest for me, as far as just a support perspective, because on every single time frame, NVIDIA is oversold and in need of a bounce. And even if it just went for a simple resistance bounce, that resistance bounce is all the way at 742. And if it broke resistance, the first target would be that 755. And so expect a lot of volatility. In fact, while I'm talking about it, rather than just talking about it, I'm going to go ahead and write it down on my chart, or on my whiteboard, as one of my top playlists top for my playlist this week. So and I think this was rather interesting here. So the weekly time frame, that also speaks a lot of volumes here. The relief bounce could just be that. It could be just a relief bounce, because if you look here at the weekly time frame, this is showing it's bearish, just to put it that way, but it is holding its 9-day moving average on that weekly time frame, which is that bullish moving average. And you can see here when it goes on its bull runs, that's where it bounces back to. And even the weekly bodies will finish above and respect that 9-day moving average. So right now I'm looking at Nvidia to hold that if it gets a bounce there, and then if we end up trending down after earnings, which we have earnings right here, then it will resume. So watch for some volatility in this area, right? So I mean, I can box it out for you. One second. Where's my box? There's my box. Okay, there we go. So in this little area here, 685 and 725, expect quite a bit of bounce, and I would actually raise this up a little bit to about 50% of that candle there, where we'll more than likely at first, right, get that bounce. And even if it does pick up, because historically we've seen some of these splits run up and it becomes super expensive and then it fizzles out. Well, here we've run up to, dumped to, and it's become cheaper in price, so it could be more attractive to people looking to buy the stock long term. So in my opinion, this one actually, I don't want to say it has an easy setup, but it does have pretty easy targets as far as where it could potentially bounce to. So like I said, expect that potential bounce next week, and what you can do is you can set a couple small psychological price targets. So you have the 725, or right here, this little 727 level. I'm going to set an alert there. More than likely we'll probably get a gap up, and I think that you're going to see the headline coming into this week, markets gap up on anticipation for earnings season, and that'll kick off the week into what looks like to be a resumption of the bullish trend, and then we will dump again. All right, let's stop going over NVIDIA, and what'd you say? Don't forget to leave a like, folks. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. What do you think about Ford? They recalled SUVs. I called puts on them last week, which ended up banking. Well, I guess for Ford puts. All right, well, let me go over my watch list, or a couple of stocks that I'm eyeballing here. So right off the bat, I posted this on my Discord. NIO, interesting setup here. Consolidated heavily here, looking as if it wants to break to the downside, but not so fast. If it holds, or if it fakes us out, right? So it could bounce right here. It could still hold. And these aren't showing strength, right? Those aren't strong downside candles. You don't see any strength here on the MACD. So I'll be careful about entering a heavy position at the break of a major support. Now, it is probable that NIO would likely go and see the $40 level. It's at $42.50. And one thing, and a lot of them, I was looking at XPVE, you know, they run together. XPVE had a break in downtrend and a pop up and a rejection. It's just sitting right here. So it has almost a contradictory setup where you see this stock looks like if it just had a little bit of volume would probably pop up and we would hit that $40 level. On the other side, we have the potential for this being a major rejection zone, excuse me, and potentially trending back down to that $36 level where we got that large bounce in the first place. But as you can see, if you zoom out, which is always important to do, it has that very ugly round top look that we don't like to see when we're looking for bullish signs. So again, NIO to the downside to $40 for a scalp. Anywhere below that, we'll see when it gets there. But I think it's a feasible target to potentially hold if it goes well tomorrow. I may look to roll that out, not literally roll that out, but take a position, add a position for a swing, which I rarely ever do, but the chart is just very much telling me, and you can see here that it has a bit of a head and shoulders even. You know, it's 3 shoulders on the left side, but no, I'm just kidding. But it does have the head and shoulders setup, which I will say the head and shoulders setup can sometimes set up and blow up in your face. I had this head and shoulders setup on cat, and I can't remember where the hell I saw it. I think it was like back here, right? It may have been back here where I saw the potential for a rejection here, and it never did it. And then eventually it did. You know, I saw the bearish signs, but it just still broke out. So again, looking at XPVE, looking at NIO, there's a potential for a bounce, but we're going to be watching those to the downside. They don't have any earnings, so they may just kind of slip underneath the radar. NVIDIA. We're going to go over space here in just a second as well. mRNA. You guys can hop on the YouTube if you guys want. It's a little bit easier there. Oh, that's not the right one. Where did I? Oh, I just put NVIDIA. My bad. Not NVIDIA. Netflix. Excuse me. I got them mixed up. Okay, so Netflix, big ouchie last week after a big run up, I think stifled by the Qs. One big thing that's happening with Netflix is the video game industry that they're trying to break into. That's pretty big. We know how big the video game industry can be, and the fact that the accessibility and ease that Netflix provides, I think it gets a bounce. Excuse me, guys, I'm sorry. Let me get some water really quick. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so this support here that we've kind of bounced off of, let me pull that back down. So as you can see, there's this 525, 526 support that we bounced off of. There is the potential for that retest again. Again, earnings coming up this week, so there could be a little bit of volatility, but just off technicals, we could see a support bounce. Pretty heavy downtrend here for Netflix, but I think that with that news, there may be some type of relief bounce coming for Netflix, and it coincides with my my setup on the Qs. So the Qs look very similar in the sense where they look like they're going to get that bounce but still stay in range. So same thing for Netflix, and I think that anywhere above 533.44, and we could see Netflix make a relatively strong push back into the 540 range for Monday and Tuesday. So, okay. What was the other one that I had? Space. Funny enough. So a lot of people have been asking me whether or not this is going to bounce, and of course, probably yes. At the moment, I think that just based off of technicals, and I know some of you space cases are probably not going to dig it, but there is a gap that needs to get filled at 23.44. I may go out long or go long on space. Of course, we have earnings coming up soon. I'm curious to see what their sell of their stock. I don't think it's going to obviously impact this quarter. It's just going to be another blank check quarter. But going into next quarter, I'm curious how they use those funds and if they actually start to become a viable company. But 2150 is where we could likely see space make its way down to. So keep your eyes on space. Tomorrow, I'll be watching this one, and as you can see, it's rather huddled up. on this support here, and going up to the 4-hour, you can see where that support is right there at that $30 level. If 30 gets broken, I think that we see 27.55. It could be one of those days. You can see also, just to add to that setup here, we have multiple EMA crossovers happening to the downside, but we also have the 9-day moving average retest and rejection, showing me that the bears are still very much in control. But again, it's the $30 level, so anywhere above 31.65, and we could see a relief bounce on space. So I always come into the day unbiasedly with the idea of what could happen, but ready for what might happen, or some of the other different probabilities that could happen in spite of my thoughts on the market. So and if you guys want, you guys can go ahead and start dropping your request in the YouTube chat, and I'll go ahead and start highlighting those, and we'll get to those here in just a second. One at a time, please, though. Just as one ticker at a time. I know some of y'all be dropping like 9 tickers on me. It's more than I can bear. Oh lordy. Another setup, guys, that may be, I don't want to say easy, but I may watch Apple back down to 140, 144.50. I think that's a relatively easy to support. 144, I think this one goes back to 143. Now again, guys, we're running into earnings, so who knows, but most times that we've had earnings, and you can see earnings here, and it just spurred a whole lot of downside. We can go to, let's see, Microsoft. Earnings here spurred a whole lot of downside. We can go to name one. Maybe Snap does whatever the hell it wants. Snap also, speaking of Snap looks like hot dog water again. And this one could see a trip back down to 57.60 Monday. It's at that bounce level again, like I said, with the Qs, so there is that chance we get that relief bounce. But even upon that relief bounce, we could end up rejecting, right? You can see the rejections happening here, pulling off of that dynamic resistance, so multiple retests of the level that we broke, and so we may get that bounce, like I said, back up and retest $60, and then continue to trend down. But this one looking rather deadly with that same head and shoulders setup here. So Apple was kind of already on my watch list here, but I just went over that for you. So anywhere below 145.50, I would imagine that we're going to see a first trip to 144.25, and then second level is going to be 143.35, where I imagine we'll get that secondary bounce on Apple. If we do not get a bounce. If we do get a bounce, it all changes, and I'll watch it to the upside above 146 for a potential retest of 147.50. Otherwise, I'm looking at these things to the downside. It doesn't mean, right, that we won't see, like, in looking at the hourly, I like to use that as a time frame, a median between the higher and the lower time frames. But I would be looking for a retest of the 146.60 level, probably in pre-market, and then a rejection. I'm also fully prepared, right, to not take a position. Earnings week has always been, look, Apple's gonna run. It's gonna run into earnings. Where? It didn't. It just flatlined and then hit 140 and just dumped. I mean, going back into earnings here, you do get a little run up here and then a dump. I mean, and it dumps, like it really goes back down. You can see Apple historically. This was one of the few, I remember this earnings. They actually slightly gapped up and then just chopped around. But again, earnings here, they announced the split, that caused the upside. Earnings here did well, but so far historically, and you've seen Apple made a decent run two all-time highs, but it did it here and it pulled right back. Just because it made a new high doesn't mean it's going to keep going. All right. Let's see. How's NIO looking? Got it. I already went over that one. Never mind. Because it's on my watch list. Let's see here. Can I look at STEM? STEM and seed. Stems and seeds. Yuck. Oh boy. STEM. What did they do? Propagate. That was a dad joke. Sorry. I don't know what they did. Apparently, I charted them before, and I knew that they were going to dump because they did. Damn, where was I on this? Who told me to chart this? Because, damn, that was on the money, man. I totally forgot about that. I think I remember waking up and I got an alert, and I never even looked at it. Sometimes I just be forgetting about amazing plays. Okay, well, let's quit gloating and let's look at the chart here. So you are nearing a previous bounce zone. Looks like a demand zone right there. It's between 23 here and 24.75. Got a nice little zone there, bounce zone. You are running into earnings at the looks like beginning of September. So a little bit of time there. More than likely, you're going to see a bounce. I would suspect that at the, hold on one second, 24.65 in between, and like I said before, the 23 level. It's a relatively wide range. Right now, looking at the hourly, I would be prone to say that this looks like it's going to see continuation to the downside. I think your first target is 24.71. That seems like a high probability here. Looking at the hourly, yeah, no strength here on that bounce either to the upside, and you can see just every attempt right here to hit and break that 27.75 level was rejected quite briefly or quite sharply. So I would imagine below 25.60 with the break of 25, that first level of 24.75, and then hopefully you'll see a bounce there, but that's a little bit too far ahead. Like I said, you have earnings, which could be a catalyst to bounce you. So, all right, FUV. So FUV is a ridiculously highly shorted stock. Let's go look at FUV. Actually, let's go highest. Ooh, spelling there. Ha! Look at that. It already knew what I wanted. Looky there. Okay, so most shorted stock right now: Pubmatic, Workhorse, Clove, and FUV. FUV has maintained a relatively high level of short interest. Not quite yet where it needs to be at. In my opinion, Clove and Workhorse, even maybe that Pubmatic, all seem, these two both have incredibly high short interest. Excuse me. Oh, look, they changed it. All right, so looks like the top two right now are MRIN and CRTD, Created Incorporated. Looks like the 49% of the a little bit over 2 million share flow is shorted, and then you have 47% of the $9 million or 9 million plus stock short flow shorted here. Let's see here, Pubmatic up 4%. I think you know what we could do is we could actually just go and take a look at these charts, right? And this is what I do, because some people will look at them and they'll completely forget. If I think they're of interest because of their short interest, then I will go and to my chart, and I will simply, it looks like somebody already attempted to squeeze it, right? That I don't know if this was news related, probably on this top short interest, so somebody tried. Pumped and dumped very quickly. This is obviously caused by market makers. They'll let it go for so long, and then they'll just short the ever-living crap out of somebody. But looking at the daily here, you can see previous high spikes here. Nothing crazy, but its gap got, and you can see this is where it got rejected. 785 is where they're holding that down, and 276 is where that major support, actually it's going to be 231 is where that major support is. I have no idea what they do. I have no idea how they do it or what their stock, I don't know. But I do know that they're heavily shorted, and so they will be of interest. So the best thing that I can do, because I'm not interested in shorting it, because obviously there's not much to short, I would say 365, would be a good place to set an alert. I like to use the hourly EMAs as a place to find resistance. You can see right here the 20 EMA showing a lot of respect, right? You can see it holding it down in a way. So if it does bounce, I would like to see it break above that, hit that 50 and 200 EMA at the $4 level. So expect a pop to 4. If it breaks 4, volume hits, then you could see the beginning of a little squeeze here. So, and again, like I said, it's just that easy. Set alerts. Don't let the stocks get away from you. And have it takes a second, right? So high volume steps in. Right, we're doing this live, so high volume steps in. Oh shit, what do we do? The stock just popped, and now it's here, and you're like, oh shit. Like, okay, first thing you do is stop saying oh shit, take a deep breath, and look at the volume. I like to go down to the 5. I like to go look at the tape, right? So I'm actually watching the order flow come in. And once I'm kind of like watching, looking, seeing, okay, are there any orders ahead of us? Any large orders being placed above 4. If it breaks 4, is it going to spill over and start to really run? And how does the volume look? So if it ends up breaking, you can see this little zone here, so cute. 520, 420, respect it, and looks like 385. So that little zone there. So you say, oh, boom, boom, it hits, consolidates maybe a little bit. That's where you step out, you keep that hourly up. And a lot of people scalp on the hourly, or they will wait for breaks of resistance on the hourly in order to, like, they don't need to watch the 5-minute, because it's just like, okay, I'm not going to get caught up in the mess. When the candle breaks, I'll take the trade. And it's a way to kind of cut out the noise for people who don't like it. Man, I'm gonna finish this up, dude, and I'm going to bed. I do not feel very good right now. All right, what was the other ones? MRIN. This one has already been played a couple times this week. This one's just been holding this crazy ass looking downtrend here for a hot minute. No. Looks like you could actually get a reversal here. So this one, I would set a, let me just mark some lines here. Areas of respect, that's what I'm looking for. Look, bounce, bounce, wick. That's a level. 1284, 1285. That's the 200-day EMA right there as well. So I would suspect that MRIN anywhere above 1285, and we could have a runner on our hands. Obviously anywhere below 72, I don't care. Anywhere below or above 960 or 972, and I'll start watching it. So boom, set some alerts on it. FUV, not enough yet. Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. I kind of got off track. I did Apple, Tommy, didn't I? Did I do Apple? I thought I did Apple. I'll do Apple again. Ford. Yes. So I had this one pretty well tracked out. I think it might continue to trend to the downside. My level right now is 1350, and I think that we're going to see in I'd say 1325, somewhere in this range. This support is where I'm watching Ford to hopefully see some type of bounce in anticipation for earnings. Cars get recalled all the time, shit gets recalled all the time, and life keeps going. So thanks for the follow on TradingView, Mr. Solventless Anon. So anonymous. All right. So with Ford, watch for some bounces around 1330 in anticipation for earnings again. 1325 I think is a good bounce level to watch for. So let's see here. What are we doing? My head feels like a balloon right now. Roblox. Ooh. Ooh. I had an Elliott wave set up on that they broke. They didn't hold the Elliott wave. So before I even get into it, I saw ass of flow for Roblox puts, and I was trying to decipher looking at where the strike price was. So I may have to go look at that again. I'm gonna go ahead and just look at flow algo. I'm not gonna guess. Yuck. Ooh, look at the SPY puts. $3.4 million coming in after hours. 411 puts for 820. 411. Where is that at? Hold on, let me look at that real quick. I didn't even see that. 411, my guys. 411. Oh my God, that's a lot of red. Oh, that would suck. Oh, did my phone die? My phone died. Not cool. Okay, let's see here. Sorry guys, I got a little distracted by those SPY puts. So let's look at Roblox and see what we got. Not a damn thing. Okay, let me go look at my other flow. And let's see what we got there. Roblox. $81.07 that came in. Yeah, so that came in $81 puts. Those were weeklies. Looks like mostly weeklies. August. $60 puts for January 21st. Next year. That could be more than likely is a hedge. Not much. So, but let's take a look at the chart here. So obviously you can see we're at that IPO high. That I think it was like the second day high. And that established that first resistance for Roblox, and that's been a breakout level as well as a bounce level. Roblox is in need of one, and I think that Roblox may get one. Looking at the linear supports, it's all good, but I think that even if you just pull this across, it does appear that it's starting to taper a bit, if you will. So look for a bounce going out until next week. I would say anywhere above $80. Is where Roblox will likely go for another little retest. Not a huge range, 83. And you guys remember, same setup on the Qs, same setup on most tech stocks. Not a whole lot of room to run. So if we can scalp it, we'll scalp it. If we can't, if it gets away from you, don't chase it. Don't chasing is going to be the theme of the week, a couple weeks ahead of us, because if things start running, they will reverse in your face, guys. We have literally seen choppy price action as we approach earnings. And what else do we have besides earnings to be a catalyst for positive? that is it. That is what the market needs, is a positive earnings season. And in the climate we're in, we can only hope that that's what we get. Anyway, for Roblox, again, and I'm going to go down here to the hourly, watch for a bounce on Roblox. I would imagine around 79.40, break above that 50-day EMA. You can also see $80 is that obvious level. But above that, you would have the first target of 82, 82.50. Once that target gets broken, 85 would be your main target, or I would probably be out of any trades at 84.30, 84.50 if I was in any weeklies or anything like that. So. Zillow / Uber. There you go, put a slash on it, and it doesn't count as two. I'm just kidding. Ooh, that's not a ticker. Zillow Group. What do we got for this? A bunch of goofy ass lines right now. Let's see here. What do we got going on? I don't know what that is. Okay, so it looks like the last time we talked about Zillow was holding this top resistance turn support, and it now has since broken said support and is now back down on the very same level that it bounced off of to break above that channel. So if we break a set of mark there. So as you can see, this was a previous support level for Zillow going back all the way into November of last year. Also served as a resistance level. Once it broke it, it took off, and I imagine, and you can also see this massive head and shoulders here that still holds true. It almost more than a head and shoulders, but very bearish setup here right now. Running into earnings, I would not be surprised if we see Zillow. I'm actually going to write this on my chart or on my whiteboard. I really like this setup. And the reason why I like this setup is because it has earnings coming up. And even if it continues to trade in range, it could see with the rest of the market anywhere below $100 very easily retest and be back in the 82. 87 would be my main target, 87 flat, and that's likely where earnings would have it chap off of if earnings were not great. Now, Zillow obviously is, if I'm not mistaken, real estate, which has been booming. So of course, I don't know anything about the company, but earnings is coming up, real estate's booming. That's all I'm gonna say. I have no idea, but as far as the chart is concerned, like I said, anywhere below 101.32. Let's go down to this time frame. Looks like 102.25 is where that bounce. So anywhere below there, Zillow is probably going to continue to take a spill. I think also just charting it really quickly. Oops, we got a little downtrend here. So we have that little downtrend here, anywhere above 105, and what I just talked about, breaking that support, it may hold off, right, and hold this support level until earnings comes, if it can. But anywhere below that 102 level, watch for 100, and then if it breaks 100, watch for continuation to the downside. Boy, my head is hurting right now. Yeah, I don't know if you heard me, Shinobi. My noggin is hurting me right now, dude. I'm about to hop off after this. I gotta go to bed, get ready for tomorrow. I think I caught something. I don't even know. I caught some dude trying to steal my package on my porch though today, and I pretty much made him fear for life itself. I think because he just apologized. I'm so sorry. Like, oh God. I was like, you would have gotten a backpack that I bought my son for school. So, whoopty. I've never had anybody try to steal anything off my porch before. It's kind of alarming. All right, Uber was the next one. I love Uber because it's just the ticker is the name. Okay, so Uber looks like hot dog water as well in this zone. I can only guess, and oof, man. Ooh, I don't want to be that guy, but if earnings is coming up on Uber and if they mess it up, this gap gets filled. I know that seems highly unlikely, but that gap gets filled. You know what I may do? I may take out 30 puts, $35 or even 36. Let me put this on my chart as well. I like that. Thanks for those. So I would imagine, and also Uber's been around for a long ass time and still doesn't have cash flow. So anywhere below $45 and Uber is a goner. Or excuse me, not $45, but right now we have that support looks like at $43. $43 could see, now this could end up taking a hot minute to play out. Again, earnings is all the way in August, so watch for a little bit of bounce action and then potentially that leg down. So probably in October, so I'm gonna write October, I may grab October puts on Uber for a long, risky, and speculative put. Now, of course, very speculative, but this is a full ass gap, and I think it gets filled. $36. The gap starts at 39. So here's the deal. Let me give you guys. Let me just throw this out there, right? So let's fast forward in time. Let's see here. Give me some. Let's do a ghost feed, okay? So let's say that we do this number right here. Okay, that's all fine. I don't mind that type of movement. And then, right, we get to this level. Okay, it's tapped already. Maybe it continues to consolidate, right? And now we're here. So I'm just giving you a scenario. Ignore these little wicks down here. But just say it's holding that level. And you're holding those puts, right? You're up ridiculous, right? You're up, but we took those puts all the way here. Good God, you're up, or you waited for the resistance tap, and you ended up taking puts there or adding. Who knows? Don't watch your positions go. Be in your positions. If you're watching, that's what I would do if I was you. That's what I try and do, is when I see an opportunity to squeeze a little bit more out of it without being greedy, I will. So if we go and hit 38.95 and I decide I'm going to trim a couple contracts off of those long contracts I took. I got more time on them. But now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a put to $36 or maybe a $35 put out till next week at the current time that I'm in, right? Because I'm going to maximize that gap. Gaps get filled, the gap will get filled. And when the gap gets filled, more than likely it's going to get filled relatively quickly. And that's where we would want to hop in and we want to take advantage of that in order to not only bolster our gains, but if the trade, right? So let's say we scalp half of that gap, or we scalp the gap, and then Uber gets news, right? They've got spaceships, and then all of a sudden it just bounces off that level, and you lose a little bit of premium, right, on the long contracts, maybe just a little bit, but you've already scalped it to the downside. You already found opportunities, like when NIO gets here, right? Or when Uber gets here, when it gets to 43.23, we're not going to watch it. We're going to scalp it down to 20, probably 42 even. If it breaks 42, then the first obvious level is going to be 40, right? So we don't just we can take those long opportunities, But even if it bounces one day, right? Same thing. So, sorry for the rant. I have a family. Yes, I do. I do have a family. Why? No, just kidding. I have my family, yes. Okay, so what's my thoughts on Ethereum Classic? Don't have much, not much of a crypto guy, my friend. I can look at the chart here in a second. TTD. Did you say family? Okay, so sweet. Interesting. Okay, so TTD, as I can see right now, has broken out, right, after their split, just ripped, and now they're pulling back to the very same, and this is kind of speculative, but that same downtrend that we had previously. Now you could also argue, well, not argue, but you could say that there's a downtrend here as well, because that is our breakout level. So there's almost like, and I'm sure if I set up GAN fans, which I can explain to you guys what that is in the future, but if I set up GAN fans here, you would see that these are more than likely adhering to those. So if TTD continues or breaks that yesterday or Friday's low and cruises below 68.50, I would highly suspect that you would see 65 flat as a first bounce level, but the $60 would be highly likely and could even trend lower to the 57. You have earnings coming up here as well, but you see major crossover here. Everything looks like it's just kind of turned tide, and after the split, that can tend to happen. So. Okay, so what do we? In the morning, we'll go over an updated playlist for you guys tomorrow morning. I'll let you guys know what I'm watching. There's a lot of really interesting setups. BA looks like absolute dog shit. And they are just really messing shit up, and to say the least. They are not making things easy for their stockholders. That being said, I think that Boeing hits 215 this upcoming week, anywhere below 216.70. There's going to be a little bounce or a break there, where I think that we could take advantage of a potential bounce on Boeing. That bounce may be just very briefly up to and around, and I'm going to fix that, the 218 level, but anywhere below that for Boeing. And we could see, because as you can see on Boeing, it's broken a very major, so you could see a retest of 218. And there's a reason why I say that. It's not just a number that I make up. This is also a support that was broken and has been bounced off of for Boeing multiple times. So zooming down here, going all the way back there, you can see 218.50 right there. That would line up right around this zone, right? So 219, you could say 220 and 218.50 on Boeing. And those two would be major levels that Boeing would have to break in order to resume a shorter or lower time frame uptrend, or break that downtrend. But if you go back, you can see that this is a very choppy and volatile area for Boeing, but also, again, where we bounced off of. So we'll see what happens. Boeing is a setup that I'm watching. It's nearing that 215 support, guys, and based on everything that I would not, and this is, I'm just saying this from an investor perspective, I would not buy Boeing at these levels. No. I think it goes lower. I think that we see Boeing in the, I don't want to say lower 200s because that's pretty far. But if it does continue in this trend and airlines continue to see these hits, I mean, they're asking, the FFA and certain airlines to double and triple inspections on certain planes, and it just seems like the quality and the craft is gone, and they're paying for it, and they've tried to cover up a lot of different things, and been unsuccessful in doing so, gotten in some big trouble for it. So, but yeah, so Boeing is one of the ones I have on my watch list. JMIA was actually another one that was just looks ready to dump. I love it. I love JMIA, but I'm also looking to play it to the downside if I have to. And so 2150 for JMIA is another level. But again, I will catch up with you guys on what I'm watching the most. Let's go over DKNG though before I forget. So just like everything else, DKNG, I've already charted this one previously, but 43 even is basically a relatively decent support, but I think the most strength is held in this zone. $40.75 is where DraftKings does look like it's going to potentially head down to. Now, usually after these consolidation periods, you see that break, and you do see a break of 44 or 45, or no, 44.50, and then right now settling at that 43.50 level. In my opinion, I think that an initial leg down to 42.21, and then $40 flat. DraftKings heads to $40 in my opinion. And what you can do is, if you're in a downside position, you can draw a downtrend to kind of verify or double check that trend to make sure you're not breaking. And you do see that the moving averages here kind of backing up that trend line. So keep an eye on that $42 break for continuation to the downside. So, all right, guys. With that. Let's see, AMC, not a problem. Yeah, I don't mind. Last ones, get them in there. I went over AMC earlier on Reddit, or no, it wasn't Reddit, it was TikTok, and I basically gave everybody a pretty clear target. So there was a daily gap that got filled. You can see that right here. There's your gap. Gap got filled. Gap bounced off of $32. I made 100% on that play. Now on the daily here, it looks like we have a dark cloud cover. Not quite, right? So it's not quite there. Normally a dark cloud cover is going to be a gap up and a loss of over 50% of the previous day's gains, where we tapped off that 50% level at 34 and didn't end up losing 50% of those gains. So I would imagine that we head back down and we possibly hit 32.20 and then bounce again. It hasn't yet to test its resistance. And you can see here too, like when it gets these bounces and there's just this little candle here, it's never good. But again, it does look as if it's wanting to go and retest resistance. I think it's going to be pretty clear. If you get above $40 on AMC, you're back in trend. If you stay below $40, then more than likely you're going to continue to at least consolidate in this area, right? Now, this is what could happen, right? We could get through earnings. AMC could just sit here and sit there and sit there, and then once that kind of big week and we see maybe things start to pull back, we know how AMC works. And let me tell you something, guys, hedge funds, big institutions, banks, everybody, they're in. right? They're in. Robots are in. AIs are in. They're waiting. I think that AMC still pops. I don't know if it squeezes, but I still think that it pops. They know that retail is going to be there, and retail is going to continue to buy and buy and buy and buy. And so they're probably going to try and take advantage of that as the market trends down, this almost being a hedge. So don't sleep on it. All right. With that, my friends, I got to go to bed. I appreciate you guys all being here, leaving a like. Sorry I couldn't show my face. I'm sure you guys will sleep better tonight anyway. Because I didn't, because I look rough right now. I'm not feeling hot. So, but I appreciate you guys' patience with that. And I will be on at 8:45 tomorrow morning to try and prep for the week ahead and get an idea of the game plan. Yeah, appreciate you guys too. I will see you guys tomorrow morning. You guys have a good evening. Make sure if you guys need to DM me or ask any questions that you have. If you guys aren't in the Discord, hop in there and ask away. So there are no dumb questions, guys, and you can't learn until you start to find the answers to your questions and then use them in the practice. And that's as in life, but just as in trading, that's an important thing to remember. So when they come up, when these questions come up, I'll leave you guys with this. In the practice of doing something, the experience is going to bring up things that you're going to question or things that you can't understand. And with that, that's the opportunity for you to solve that there and fix that, or not even fix it, not even solve it. Let me retrace that. But to write that down and have that now as a point where you can say, okay, I'm lacking understanding in this, let me ask. And there, please, especially with me, there are no dumb questions. You will not get ridiculed ever in any part of our chat for having any dumb questions. Tesla, June 23rd. Oh! Oh, Derek. It's okay. Listen, dumb is perspective. That's not dumb. Alright, I've seen dumb. I saw $100 calls on Space the day before the launch. You know, talk about a good. Alright, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.